Here's a step-by-step guide if you want to start socializing in groups, but you're a bit shy or introverted. I'm Alex, and I'm a dating anxiety coach for nerds. I help shy, introverted nerds find love the nerd way. You've probably heard me or other people saying that if you're struggling with dating apps, you should go out and meet people. Just put yourself out there, that's what everybody says. But how do you do it? What are the specific steps that you have to take that everybody just seems to take for granted? Well, here they are. Step 1 is easy and you can do it on your own. Write down your hobbies and interests. In the beginning, just write down what you already enjoy. It doesn't matter if it's single player or multiplayer, that comes later. For now, just write down what topics do you like, what activities do you like, what hobbies do you like. Do you like to build stuff? Do you like to read stuff? Do you like to play video games, board games? Do you like Lego? Do you like building miniatures? Do you like painting? Just think of stuff that you like, even if that's just a solitary thing that you do on your own. Next, write down things that you've been thinking about trying. It doesn't really matter if there's nothing in your area where you can practice that, or if it's very complicated, or if you've never tried it, or if you're afraid of trying it. Just think, what is something that you've been thinking about trying that maybe could be interesting? Just write it down. Nobody's looking. You're just by yourself writing down a list of things that you might want to try. And lastly, write down things that other people told you that you might want to try, or things that other people invited you to. Because sometimes you didn't really think about that, or you don't really see the appeal to it. Just write it down and leave it there. Now, why should you start with things that you might actually enjoy instead of just trying something random like, salsa dancing? Well, our goal here is to find you a partner. But to find you a partner, we have to grow your network of friends. And to do that, we have to find something that you enjoy doing over and over again. Something that you actually like. What that's going to do is it will make it easier for you to keep doing it over and over again and give you time to get to know those people and eventually become friends, or maybe something more. It will also actually make you happy. And happy people actually attract happy people and are more attractive. Often when I work with clients, they talk about regular stuff and they're kind of down and flat and not very engaged with the conversation. But as soon as we find something that they actually enjoy, they just light up, smile, and become very magnetic. It doesn't matter if that's Warhammer, if that's D&D, if that's video games, whatever it is, the idea is to find something that you enjoy doing so that you can actually build those connections. Now, step 2, how do you make your hobbies social? This is a question that I get asked all the time. It's, my hobbies are watching anime, reading books, playing video games, all by myself at home. There's no way that I can meet someone like that. Well, here are many ways that you can turn any of those hobbies into something social where you can actually meet people. The first thing to look for is there something around this hobby that you can actually learn? Something new that you can learn? Even if it's just watching anime, would you like to learn Japanese? Would you like to learn how to draw? Would you like to learn how to animate? Would you like to learn something else? And when you figure out what it is that you want to learn around that hobby, find out if there are workshops, classes, courses, or even just places where amateurs who are into that hobby would like to get together. For example, if you say, I like watching anime, I want to start learning Japanese to watch anime without dubs. Or maybe you like manga and you don't want to have to wait for it to be translated. You can just go take some Japanese classes. And once you get past the maybe first or second levels of a language, you can actually go to meetups where people go for language exchanges. So some of those, they will say exactly which languages you're going to do the exchange with. So it could be English and Japanese, English and Spanish, English and Portuguese. But there's also other ones where it's more like a multi-language experience where you show up, they ask you what languages you speak, they give you some stickers with flags of those languages, and then as you go about the place, you can see who speaks the languages that you want to practice. Depending on the format, sometimes you will just have a free space to walk around and meet people. Usually it's going to be in small groups because they're practicing specific languages. Or what they will do is, if they have specific languages that you're going to be practicing, they will put people in tables of 3 or 4 people, and then you will be rotating. So it's not such an overwhelming experience of lots of people all the time, everyone talking. In the same way that people get together to practice languages, people get together to practice many different things. Even if you say, I like reading, well, maybe you can start writing. You can join a writer's workshop group where people just get together and do it in groups. Even a book club could be considered practicing in groups. But depending on the hobby or what it is, you will have more or less options, or the options will be different. Like let's say that you like fantasy and you want to start practicing archery. That's a very easy one because you can already go and take some classes and then go join an archery club and meet people that way as well. And another thing that you can do with archery is compete, which leads me to the next option, competitions. Is there any way that through that hobby, you can join competitions, whether in groups or by yourself? If it's archery, every now and then you will find competitions. Even some rent fairs have archery competitions built in, which is also nice because you get to dress up. But also think about video games. Just join an esports team, or depending on the game, just show up by yourself. Even things like programming could turn into a group-based competition. You can join a hackathon by yourself or with a team, go and compete and meet new people that way. And even if you don't like competing, you can still just show up and watch. And speaking of watching and competing, another option is conventions. You can often find conventions around almost any hobby or any interest. Just find where the next one is, when the next one is, and go and try to meet people. Now, depending on the event, you will have more or less activities that you can do where you can meet people. It's very common for someone to go to a convention and be like, I'm gonna meet everyone. But then that doesn't happen because sometimes there's not really any activities where you can meet people, or you just feel a bit awkward, out of place. Some conventions are more catered towards buying stuff. Other conventions are easier for meeting people. But what I can tell you from my research interviewing couples at conventions, many of them met there. Because one of the great things about conventions is that it's a space where you can share your passions with other people. And speaking of sharing, are there any spaces where people go to talk about their passions and to share about their passions? Some groups, what they will do is they will have one person who will give a talk, and afterwards, people will just mingle and socialize. That's a great way to share. Another way to share is just to experience the same thing together. So some groups will go to the movies, some groups will get together at home to watch movies or anime, some groups will go to concerts. It's not necessarily that you're practicing a hobby together, but that you're having an experience together. And speaking of sharing, can that hobby involve some buying or exchanging? Because in many cases, for example, with TCGs, you can go to places where people are selling or exchanging cards. Same thing with manga. I've heard of manga swaps as well, where people just go with their used mangas and they exchange them, or with comic books. That's one more way how you can meet people. And last but not least, online communities. Where can you go and meet people online that share your same interests? This could be Discord, Reddit, forums, even video game online communities. All of those could work for you to start growing your network and meet your player 2 that way. But if you're still stuck and you're not sure how to get started, I put together a list of over 200 ideas where you can meet your player 2. These are all nerdy ideas, one's for anime, one's for reading, one's for video game. There's lots and lots of places listed where you could meet your player 2. And there's also a step-by-step guide of how to do it. So if you want to get over 200 ideas of where you could meet your player 2, just go to the link in the description. So now that you have an idea of what you would like to do with other people, here's step 3. Find out where you can do that. How can you find places where people with your same interests get together? There are many places where you can look. My first suggestion is to go to your AI of choice. Just say, I'm in this city, I want to meet people who practice this thing, or who do this thing, or where can I learn this thing, and see what it gives you. Sometimes those things make sense, sometimes they don't. Next step, Google. City and whatever it is that you want to practice or learn or meet people with. If you want to meet people in person, also try Google Maps. Do not depend just on Google to bring you to Google Maps. For some reason that doesn't really work. Go to Google Maps and search for whatever it is that you want. You may be surprised at the things that come up. And speaking of in person, check out meetup.com. It has both online and in-person events, it has groups, and often those groups meet regularly, which is great for meeting new people. Next comes Facebook groups. I know you may think that Facebook is for old people and everyone's forgotten about Facebook. That is not true. I've been living in many different countries for over 12 years, and I've been changing cities from 3 to 6 months for the past 6 years. And I can tell you that Facebook groups are alive and well. So just go to Facebook. If you don't have an account, just create a fake account. Nobody's gonna find out. And search for your city and the activity you want to do and see what comes up. Make sure you filter for groups and you're all set. Sometimes there are things, sometimes there are none. Some groups may be old and forgotten, but some may actually be very, very active. If you're on Instagram, that's also another option. Just keep in mind that in many cases, unlike Facebook groups, Instagram pages are from companies or businesses. So it's not such a friendly, let's get together way to meet people. But it can still work. Like there's many organizers of activities that have Instagram accounts. You can follow them and find out what's the next activity. In fact, I have seen in some cities accounts where all they do is just tell you what's up, what you can do, how you can go and meet new people, what events there are, depending on the niche and depending on the interests. Just remember that regardless of where you're looking, make sure that you add your location, because otherwise you might find amazing ideas like a Hobbit hike, which is in Vegas. But if you're not in Vegas, that's not going to work for you. And now you're ready for step 4. You want to meet someone to date. You know you want to do it through your network. You've thought of a hobby. You found a place that might be good where people meet regularly. Great. Now it's time to do some research. Look at the description, see if it resonates with you. Check out the photos. See if the people that are going are people that you're likely to get along with. What's their age range? Are they much younger than you? Are they much older than you? Is it very heavily skewed towards one gender? And that does change depending on the hobby, but I find that regardless of the hobby itself or the interest itself, it's more about the group itself. So if you have choices, try to look for groups where you have more of a gender balance. Also, do they seem like your vibe? Sometimes you'll find groups that are gender balanced, around your same age, but you look at them and you're like, those are really not my people. And that could be for many reasons. Now, yes, you should not judge a book by its cover, but sometimes you can tell at first glance whether you're going to fit with them or not. My suggestion is, unless you have a very strong feeling that you're absolutely sure that there's no way you're going to be friends with those people, go and give them a chance, because you never know. Another thing is, are the meetings regular? Do people meet every week, every 2 weeks, every month? Even every month is fine. But you should try to avoid events where people just go only once and then there's no more events, or that they meet every 4 months or 6 months. That's just way too long. But believe me when I tell you, monthly meetings could work wonders. In fact, that's how I made most of my friends during my teenage years in the Tolkien Association. And if you want to hear more about that, check out both episodes with Jose and with Veer, where we talk about the Tolkien Association, how it worked, and how almost all of us ended up dating somebody from there at some point. And the last part of research, and this is really useful, especially if you may have social anxiety, is to scout the venue. I often hear from people with social anxiety who say that they found an activity that they want to practice with people that they would like to meet. It's the same age range, it's gender balanced, they seem cool. Then they go to the event and they just feel overwhelmed and anxious and either keep walking past or look from across the street and then don't join. That's very common. So my suggestion is, on a day where there's no event, do the exact route that you will do on the day of the event. Do the whole trip, go to where the event will be, but there will be no one there, or at least no one there from that event. If you can, go inside, check it out. Maybe if it's a bar or restaurant, just sit down, have a coffee, hang out, get used to the place, go to the bathroom, whatever it is that you need to feel comfortable. Stay there, maybe walk around the area for a bit, just make it a known place. So that way, the day of the event, you will already know what to expect, at least partially. And not everything will be so new. And that will get you ready for step 5, which is showing up and feeling awkward. Everybody says put yourself out there if you want to find a partner, but nobody tells you how awkward it feels when you do this with a new group. I've been changing cities every 3 to 6 months for the past 6 years, and every single time I go to a new place where I don't know anyone, this is how I do it. First of all, your job is not to just show up and be charming and charismatic with everyone and make lots of friends. Your first job is to just show up. Period. Once you show up, you will feel awkward. I cannot express to you how many times, actually almost every single time that I show up at a new place, I'm like, what am I doing here? I would rather leave and do something else because this is awkward. I don't know anyone. Everyone seems to know each other. Now, there's actually a couple of things that might happen. You might arrive very early and be the first one there, in which case it won't be too overwhelming. You will find one person, then another person, then a third one, and it will hopefully start building up, in which case you will feel awkward because you're the first one there. It happens. If you show up and it's a small event where people are maybe sitting at a table, you will go there, ask very awkwardly and be like, hey, is this the activity of the whatever? And people will be like, no, weirdo. Or they will be like, yeah, this is us. They're the weirdos. They're your weirdos. Amazing. You found them. And if people say like, no, you're weird, that's fine. Don't worry. That's happened to me many times. People look at me like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, it's fine. You wouldn't get it. Don't worry. I'm looking for a different group. Great. In which case you might want to text the organizers and be like, hey, where are you guys? But most often than not, what happens is you show up looking everywhere, seeming lost, and people at the table will already be waiting for someone who seems lost, and they will just wave at you, and that's it. So if you don't want to ask a table if they're your table, just stand looking awkwardly, maybe text the organizer and hope for someone to see you. Sometimes they could be upstairs or down in the basement. You don't know, so just walk around a bit and honestly, look a bit lost. Regulars will actually recognize a person who seems lost as someone who belongs to their group. Another option for big events is people just standing around in smaller groups. This is the one that usually scares people out the most because it means that you have to actively engage in a group. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. So if that's you and you would still like to take it easy, my suggestion is look for someone who's as lost as you are. And you will recognize them. They will usually be like standing next to a group or standing next to a wall or in a corner, maybe looking at their phones, not talking to many people. Those are usually new people just like you. My go-to icebreaker for those people, hey, is this also your first time? Sometimes they may say no. Sometimes they may say like, no, actually I come here often. Hi, how's it going? Or if they say no, you can be like, oh, well, it's actually my first time. I don't know anybody here. And most people will be happy to either chat with you or introduce you to more people. But most often people will be like, yes, I'm new here. And they will be super happy that you started a conversation because they were feeling super lost because they didn't watch this video. Another option, if you're still feeling a bit anxious, just find someone who's like standing there, go to them and be like, hey, like, do you know how this works? And they will usually let you know if they're regulars. Or they may say like, no, actually, this is my first time as well. And then you can just start chatting. Now, something that I do every time I join a new group is I spend a little bit of time just feeling awkward and watching how everyone interacts. Every group is slightly different, which is why it's really hard for social situations to give you exact rules of how to behave. So every time I go to a new place with new people, I just stand around for a little bit, just looking at how everyone interacts. Now, if you're joining a group where you just go and sit down at a table and start chatting, you may not have this option, though you may just want to stay silent for a little bit. But if it's a large group, nobody will notice. So just stick around, watching from afar how everyone interacts, trying to figure out kind of the dynamic of that community, see when someone new joins, do they recognize them? Is this people that seem to know each other for quite some time, which is a good thing because that means that there's community. Just try to figure out some of the codes, which you will still continue picking up as time goes by, but it's just a way to get more familiar with this community. Now, how do you join a group of people who are already having a conversation? One way is to look for a group of people who have a physical gap, some space where you can actually fit in physically. That said, you go there and you stand and you listen. What are they talking about? What's the conversation about? What are the different points of view that they're having? Sometimes just standing there listening will prompt somebody else to ask you, hey, what's your name? How are you doing? Welcome. Because they've never met you and they want to get to know new people. But even if that doesn't happen, just listen to a conversation. Chances are, if you went to a place where you have common interests, you will be interested in what somebody has to say. So just ask a question. Ask something about what they're talking about, because in theory, you would be interested. But if you've been listening to a conversation and you don't really resonate with what's going on, that's totally fine as well. You can just leave the group. One way to leave the group is to say, hey guys, nice chatting with you. I'm going to keep mingling. Everybody gets it because everyone's there to just go and meet people. Another option is to wait for a moment where nobody's paying attention to you. And if you don't talk for long enough, that's going to happen. And that's when you can just like slowly walk back and go somewhere else. I've never seen anyone get offended by that. And if that still makes you feel anxious, just use your phone. Just grab your phone and walk away as if you had gotten a message. Nobody will ever know. Now, after doing this for a while, You may not to just go and wait in silence next to a group and expecting to be invited into a conversation or asking a question. Sometimes you just want to have an icebreaker. Something that I did one time was I was having a conversation with a couple of people. Then the conversation turned into politics. I'm not really interested. I just left the group, went to a different group, and I said, "Are you guys talking about politics?" And they're like, "No." "Great." And I sat down. And I told them, I was like, "Those guys over there, they were talking about ABC. I'm not interested. What are you guys talking about?" And that is actually that I use very, very often. I will go to a new group and directly say, "Hey guys, what's the topic? Hey guys, what are you talking about?" As easy as that. And they're usually very happy to fill me in because they're having a really engaging conversation, maybe, and they want more people to join. Another great icebreaker is, what brought you here? Some people say the car. Some people might say my feet. That's just a joke. That's totally fine. But in most cases, people will tell you "Oh, I came here because I'm interested in ABC." Or if you already know what it is that they're into, because it's very clear based on the context of where you're meeting, you can just say, "What do you like about this thing? Can you recommend me some other thing?" Or you can say, "Hey, have you watched this or that?" I've been to conventions where people ask me "Hey, have you watched this anime? What do you think of this episode?" And then we will start engaging. Now, you will sometimes join activities that don't really have that much space for conversation. Those are great if you're anxious about conversation and you want to have something on the side, or you want to interact with people without the pressure of thinking about what to say. But my suggestion is, after that activity is done, just stick around hanging out and get to know those people, especially the ones that you interacted with. If you go to a board game meetups and you've been playing with some people, go and talk to them afterwards. You already broke the ice with them. You already had some sort of contact. So if after all the games or after the activity, they're talking in a group, go to where they are and see if it's a conversation that you could join in which case all you're doing is inviting the other person to continue the interaction that you were already having before during the activity. And this takes me to step 6, and a really great tool to continue the interaction, even with meetups that are only monthly, is to ask for group chats. Stay in touch virtually. And I'm not saying ask everybody for their contacts. What I'm saying is see if there's a group chat that you can join. Now, how do you find out if they have an online community or not? You just ask. You can just go and say "Hey guys, do you stay in touch in between the meetings? How?" Or you can say, "Hey, do you guys have a WhatsApp group, a Discord, or something similar where you guys stay in touch?" And honestly, almost everybody will tell you, "Yeah, this is what we use." I try to ask this question a bit further into the event, maybe towards the end before I leave, just to make sure that A, I know that I want to spend more time with them or that I would like to explore it, and B, to make sure that people are comfortable sharing with me the details to their group. Because if I just show up, know nothing about anyone and say, "Hey, I want to continue a conversation," which conversation? We didn't really have any. So just wait a little bit, hang out, have fun, enjoy, see if you click with any of those people, and then say, "Hey, do you guys have a group chat?" If they don't, maybe if you keep going for a bit more and start making friends, eventually you can be "Hey guys, there's no group chat. Do you guys want me to start one? I wouldn't mind." And most people will be "Yeah, sure, whatever, it's fine." Nobody really cares. It's usually okay. Now, I consider group chats really important because that's the one place where you can stay in touch with everyone without needing to get together in the same place or without having to talk to one-on-one separately. Also, if they already have a group chat established, you will get to see what their dynamic is, how people get along, what they usually talk about, and most importantly, where next they're going to be meeting. Because most often, yes, you have the official event, but there's almost always other activities that are never advertised that you will only find in the group chats. And going to those will be the key for you to actually start expanding your network and meeting people and making friends. So once you join the group chat, if they already have one, just look at how people are talking. And if you want to join in a conversation, go for it. And once you're comfortable, that also gives you access to organize your own events. Often when I work with clients, they say "Oh, what I really want to do is not available here, so I don't know what to do." But we end up finding things that are kind of tangential to what they want to do. So if you say, "Oh, I like D&D, but I don't have a group. I would like to have a group to play D&D with." Maybe you can go to a Hobbit hike in Vegas where you can actually find a group to play D&D with.
Last hike, somebody was "I really want to start D&D, but I've never been able to find a DM." And I was just like, I have a feeling you'll be able to find a DM. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, hey, who here plays Dungeons and Dragons? Like, everyone raised their hand. I was like, how many of you guys DM? And like 10 people had their hands raised, and like maybe 5 were like, kind of. Like, I'm an occasional DM. And I was like, go find a DM for yourself, right?
So once you join the group and start meeting people, you can be like, hey, is anyone interested in doing this thing? And if you found the right group, maybe some of them will. And so we get to the last step, deciding whether this is a place for you. How do you know if you can find a partner? Through a community that you just met. My first suggestion is to give the community at least 3 chances. Because you may go one time, and that time, the type of people who went are not really your vibe. Maybe it's the wrong age range. Maybe it's very heavily skewed to one gender. Sometimes what happens is just that day, it was very weird and different. Maybe you go twice and yeah, it's still a bit weird and different, but in a different kind of way. And the third time you actually meet people that seem cool. So don't just assume that things are always the same. Go one time, maybe it doesn't work, but you want to give it another chance because it's not that bad. So you go a second time, and then maybe you go a third time. And if after 3 times you're like, you know what, I'm not feeling it, then sure, don't keep going, don't keep trying, but at least give it 3 chances. The second thing to look for, which you're going to find out after a few times of going, is this group permeable? Do you see people joining often in addition to the regulars? Because you want both. You want regular people that you can feel comfortable with, and you want some new people from where at some point you may find your player too. You need a bit of both. So, after a few times of meeting with this group, have you seen new people joining? If the answer is yes, then great. And lastly, do you see any potential to make long-term friends or a partner? Either one's fine. Are there people in this community, in this group, that you're like, you know what, I could be friends with a person, or, that person's very attractive, I want to get to know them better. Because remember that the key is not to stay stuck with the same community and to depend only on the community. What you have to do is to find at least one, maybe more people that you want to be friends with, take them out of that container, and start meeting their friends. That's what I call unlocking your social tree. And if you want to hear more about that, check out the video Where Can Nerds Find a Partner, where I explain how the social tree works and how that can lead you to finding a partner. Now, I know there's many steps here, and you might still be stuck with step 1 or 2, where it's like, what should I do? What should I be looking for? Remember that I made a guide with over 200 ideas of places where you could meet your player too. The link is in the description, download it, and you will also get a step-by-step guide on how this works. Take care and continue playing.